Hi guys, I believe it's always easier to lie when it benefits you. It's more difficult to lie on someone else's behalf when you don't fully believe what you're saying. This is why people like Farage and Johnson are so successful in convincing people up is down, because the end result is beneficial to the said charlatan. Lucy Frazer, the Tory Culture Secretary, was trying to lie about the BBC, but she wasn't very good at it. She was asked by Kay Burley of Sky News if the broadcaster is biased, and she turned herself into knots in a bit of a car crash interview. Have a listen to this.
They're being heard.
Do you think the BBC is biased?
Well, I am looking at this from the point of view of the Culture Secretary.
Yeah,
and
that's why I'm asking you.
And
so do you think they're biased?
And the evidence shows that there is a perception of bias in relation to the BBC.
What do you think? Do you think, as Culture Secretary, that the BBC is biased?
I think that on occasion it has been biased, yes.
In relation to what?
Well, this report isn't about incidents, but we have seen recently that it's had to apologise for its own reporting, for example, in relation to the attack in the hospital in Israel, so in Gaza.
What's the difference between mistake and bias, surely?
Well, there is a perception amongst the public that the BBC is biased, and as Culture Secretary, it's important that I look at that. I must say, these are issues that I have discussed with the BBC. They've taken on board.
Yeah, but I'm asking you about the evidence of bias. Where's the evidence?
The evidence of bias is what audiences believe is the content of the BBC and
but that's
how
perception,
they.
That's not evidence. That's perception.
That is evidence. That is evidence. Impartiality is about perception of the things that are being broadcast by the BBC, and the evidence in relation to that perception is that
perception and evidence are different things.
The evidence from Ofcom, having done studies and questionnaires of the public, is that the BBC's ratings in relation to impartiality have gone down. And I and the BBC think that there is more that the BBC can do in order to improve that.
Which other?
She has no evidence. She doesn't know the difference between perception and evidence. It's like saying, I believe the moon is made of cheese. There, I have evidence that the moon is made of cheese. What is your evidence? Well, I believe the moon is made of cheese. That's not evidence. I keep coming back to this question. How do these people become ministers? They don't have a functioning brain. Now, to give her a bit of credit, maybe she understands, yes, there is no bias here. Or if there is bias, it's actually a pro-Tory bias. We've seen it before with Brexit as well. The BBC on a number of occasions have avoided talking about Brexit. That has changed somewhat over the last number of years. But from 2016 until, you could say 2021 or 2022, the BBC was avoiding Brexit. There were even clips of people criticising Brexit and those clips being edited to have the word Brexit being removed. We have the head of the BBC who was appointed by Boris Johnson, and he's a Tory donor, and he helped Boris Johnson get £800,000 of a loan. There's a pro-Tory bias within the BBC, certainly, but not some left-wing bias or Ramoner bias or whatever that the right wing tried to sell. But once again, how did these people become ministers? She doesn't understand, it seems on the surface, she doesn't understand the difference between evidence and perception. People may believe something, but that's not evidence. She couldn't come up with a single example. She mentioned about a hospital, but that was a mistake. Many news outlets came out with that mistake, and most of them apologized and corrected the record. That's not a bias. Bias would be deciding, well, this is who's going to be responsible and we're going to stick to that. I really don't understand how these people get put into these positions of power. Is it because she's a Rishi Sunak loyalist or something, and he wants to put people in positions of power that will not question him? Because they're not really the cleverest folk. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.